Buenos dias, amigos. 16th, I think, or is it the 15th? Anyway, we're on our way from Sarrià to Port Marin, and what you see behind me is what our fearless leader Nick Dennison would call a slight incline. What couch potatoes like me would call a gut-busting climb. Fortunately, I've climbed up the other side. I've just come down that, and on my way down that same hill. Although, to be honest with you, downhill is as bad as the uphill. Behind me you can see a marker, which till now I've taken little or no notice of, but having just passed the 100-kilometre marker, I've now started to take a little more interest in them. 100 kilometres is the minimum that you should do to gain the Compostela, the certificate to say that you've finished or that you've carried out your pilgrimage, and you have your pilgrim's passport stamped at various cafes and churches along the way for those to scrutinise before issuing with your certificate. So now that we've passed 100 kilometres, it's quite interesting to see them count down. Been on the road now for about 3.5 hours. I'm going to be stopping for lunch soon, which was in true British fashion, something that was made at the breakfast table and sneaked out in a serviette and put in the rucksack. So probably could do with a fix of caffeine as well, so looking forward to that. Today's journey is a lot of up and down, which is very much the way of the CaMino. Whether you can see too much behind me still as I go. But I've got my 3 litres of hydration bladder in my backpack, keeping myself well hydrated. Although it's quite hot, there's a very nice cooling breeze, and I'm after 3.5 days of walking, really forcing myself to make sure I take lots of photographs to bore you all with when I get home. But the temptation is to think that you can't be bothered to stop and unstrap yourself from your poles and take the photograph, get your camera out, put it away afterwards. But I'm trying to force myself to do so, because although some of the guidebooks say this is a personal journey and shouldn't be shared, I think it's perhaps quite nice to share it, but also with such a rubbish memory, it's nice to have them to remind you. Lots of lovely flowers and scents along the way, lots of lovely sights. Stevie and Graham, you'd be pleased to, or interested to see the farmers ploughing their fields with, instead of seagulls like you'd find in our country, they're being followed by storks. Never realised how massive storks are, huge, but lovely to see. And as we've seen all the way along the route so far, the locals in their vegetable plots, huge vegetable plots, often the OAP age group out there tending them, and saw a lady carrying the most enormous wrap of cabbages and cabbage stalks on her back. Quite a sight. Got a photo for you, so you'll be bored with that when I get home. The feet are obviously somewhat tender, but obviously that's the price you pay for allowing yourself to get to 18.5 stone. But hopefully by the end of the trip be a little bit lighter. Anyway, if I can turn this round, I'll give you a little bit of an indication of the route that we're taking. Not quite sure what you're seeing, but hopefully you're seeing some of it. I'll try and show you some of the markers that we look out for en route. They can be anywhere, on trees, on the road, there we are, and on walls, and as is often the case, a lot of graffiti, people put in their names, and when they visited certain locations, some leaving messages for those behind to say, Laura, I'll see you in Port Marin. But great shame that they feel the necessity to scribble. This is, I believe, one of those stores where they store produce, grain and so on. The lip there to stop the rats getting into it, a bit like our Staddlestones, you know. A lot of derelict buildings that we pass. This one's actually in fairly good order by comparison. And then we often come out to see, well, apart from the bus shelter, lovely views like this. Hang on a minute, let me just find the yellow arrow. Yep, this way. So, beautiful countryside. Oh, and right on view, one of the vegetable plots that I spoke of, which are all along the route. Another arrow, wonder I don't lose my hat. And there's some fellow pilgrims along the route. So they've stopped to carry out the essentials before moving on. So, this is CaMino Min, wishing you bon camino.